Hello, and welcome to the School for Ecocentric Evolution and Design Strategies. I'm Alia.
And I'm Hayden.
And we're here on this equinox transition, kind of here to explore some of the cycles and the rhythms of what this seasonal shift means for us, individually and collectively.
So the equinox is when the sun is at the equidistant point between its northernmost point on the horizon and its southernmost point on the horizon. And when it's in its southernmost point, it's in winter. Right? When it's in its northernmost point, it's in summer for us in the northern hemisphere. And so it's a beautiful seasonal marker, the equinox. It's when the sun's radiation is starting to warm the planet, and our capacity, matter's capacity to absorb that radiation and generate heat is growing, and the momentum of spring and the oncoming promise of summer is being felt somatically, is being experienced in our bodies and in the body of the planet at large. And so there's this beautiful quickening, there's this beautiful invitation to start participating, to start coming out of our shell of the winter and of the dream internal world of the Pisces season into Aries, into the expression, into the sprouting of the seed, the beginnings of living out the dreams and the longings and the visions that were cultivated in the winter. The integration process that has been taking place is birthing new desires, new passions, new inspirations to participate, to come alive, and to bring one's energy externally, to bring one's energy outward into the world.
Yes, beautifully said. It's such a time of bringing what has been hidden as a gift out into the world for others. And this can be seen even underground when seeds that have been dormant all winter are just starting to stir awake at this time in late winter, early spring. They're starting to feel the invitation and the possibility that there may be more for them than just to remain in the husk and the shell of their seed state, but actually with the conditions indicating to them that there's more fertility, there's more richness of possibility of thriving and survival. They're beginning in their intuitive sense to stir awake, just as we are in our own way, beginning to imagine what it is that this season may bring from our efforts, from our labor, from our work, from our imaginings. What might the harvest or the full fruits be at the fall equinox that we'll be able to enjoy together from what was just sown and planted and laying as just a possibility in this moment of the spring.
Exactly. And to bring in some more astrological framing at this time, we still have so many planets hanging out in Pisces, and the sun has just moved into Aries as we're recording this. And really, so there's an inspiration, there's a desire to move one's energy out in the world, and yet we're still dreaming. We're still integrating what has been. We're still incorporating. Pisces is where we dissolve the past. We look at the past. We incorporate all that has been to inspire new dreams. And that's why we oftentimes refer to it as the seed, right? Which is the name of our project, Seeds, the School for Ecocentric Evolution and Design Strategies. And the wisdom of Pisces is woven into that seed, right? Where the incorporation, the coming in, the dissolving of the past and bringing it into one's being as a process of integration is birthing new dreams, new inspirations, new longings for what we can be in the future. Just like a seed has been, like the tree incorporated all of its knowing, of its generational unfolding and its evolutionary journey into that seed as best as it could, so that that seed has the most information that it can to birth new potential into being, to participate with life. And so this is where we actively participate in the moment and we feel fully from those feelings of what has been and what is now. New dreams of possibilities can emerge. Even if those experiences are painful or challenging, it's giving us information about how we can move forward, right? What we want to dream into being for ourselves and how we want to participate with life in this moment, right? So this is still very relevant as we're moving into Aries, as we're beginning to feel the inspiration to move up and out, to break out of the old, to break out of the shell of what has kept us stuck, but also kept us safe, right? So the shell of the seed keeps us safe inside, right? Where we might just be in the dream and the hope and the longing, but now the desire is to participate, right? To risk it all, to reveal oneself, to come out, to be to do something new, to step into new territory, new expressions of being.
Yes, exactly, because that really is the energy and the medicine of Aries, is being that pioneering spirit that knows that at the end of the season with Pisces, the end of the astrological year, there really is like this necessity evolutionarily to move into uncharted territory, to do what hasn't yet been done, informed and not rejecting or denying any parts of the past, but actually informed by them and integrated through them in a way that gives an impulse, that is ways of being that are in service to life, exploring and expressing itself at greater and greater complexity and novelty over time. And that impulse lives in each seed that we can hold and we can plant in the earth, and it also lives in each one of us. It lives in us as a desire and a hope to be able to bring what is truly and uniquely and evolutionarily ours alone to offer to the ecosystems of our families and communities and world.
Yes, thank you. Beautifully said. And this is what is needed.
Yes.
This is needed in these times. We need to feel fully, and Pisces can represent the collective unconscious. So we've been really experiencing the collective moment, all of us sort of attuned to, oh my gosh, what is happening in the collective? It's COVID, now it's this war in Ukraine, now it's these things, these crises are unfolding and unraveling and continuing with momentum. And so from that information, right, which is actions based upon the past, right? It's not updated with actually what is present in the moment, right? These are reactive things that are coming out of our collective way of dealing in the past that are then presencing themselves now, and a new way of being, a new way of acting is being called forward in each of us. How can we feel this collective moment? How can we feel our own past and realize our potential to participate in new ways that are beautiful and imaginative and inspiring and connected to our authenticity, connected to who we really are and in service to the flourishing of life.
Yes.
Right?
And in so many ways, that is truly our birthright, to be able to shape the conditions of our lives individually and also communally, so that we can honor that birthright of our own sovereignty at both like individual scales of sovereignty and also communal and collective scales of actually participating in the realities of our life and livelihood in a way that produces and co-creates real opportunities of safety and security and belonging and being interwoven in processes that offer back more possibility and fertility for life to thrive and to be sustained over time.
It's like being able to act in our domains of sovereignty where we actually have choicefulness and where we can get feedback about the effects of our choices and our actions to then participate in the evolutionary process within our own self, but also within our communities and the more than human world. Just like the seed sprouts, it can't be the tree yet right when it sprouts. It's that wouldn't be where it's at, right? It has to be fully where it's at to be able to participate, to grow, and then participate deeper. Right? To weave itself deeper, to create greater degrees of security and sovereignty and capacity, right? So that realization process, that self-actualization process that we're all in and that we're collectively in, requires that we come into relationship with our own internal selves, right? That we come into relationship with our nervous system and that we can actually presence reality, what is true for us, and then take just the next step, the next way of participating in our lives in the humble way. And over time, we root a little deeper. Over time, we emerge a little taller, right? Maybe we have to support the conditions and give that seed, that sprout, what it needs to actually flourish. So what changes are needed in our lives? Where do we need to take action? Where do we need to go? How do we need to support the energy that's wanting to move through us? And how can we come into deeper relationship with what is actually real, what is actually true?
Because that participation is a way that we're creating a feedback mechanism that helps us know if and how well we are in alignment or in right relationship with all of the relationships that have informed us and that also we impact continually. And so that idea of being in relationship with, being able to receive feedback from, is in so many ways like the guiding principle too of permaculture, of the first kind of principle: observe and interact. Like interact and see the effect, and then observe deeply what that impact was, and again interact again in your next best way of participating or being a part of place. And so this particular astrological moment, even with the North Node in Taurus, feels like it is encouraging us to explore the domains and the scope of our sovereignty through deep relationality that supports us actually receiving information from and offering back our awareness to the places that we call home.
Right. And that requires, so Taurus in the North Node, this is the evolutionary invitation. This is the pathway through. It's a very beautiful invitation, and it's ruled by Venus. And so that's like what you're speaking to is like, can we come into relationship with our internal world? Taurus takes what is external and brings it in and feels. It's the sensual experience of the body that can inform us of what our needs actually are. If we're feeling our environment, we're smelling our environment. It rules the nose and it rules smell. We're aware with what is, then we can participate in changing either our setting, our environment to go somewhere that actually feels safe, or recreating, restructuring, redesigning our homes, our spaces around us, where we're actually receiving energy in a way that can support an embodied experience, more coming in to our bodies, feeling more. When we're in environments that aren't safe, we detach from the body, right? We dull our senses, so we don't have to feel. We dissociate, which is the opposite of Taurus, right? Which can be Scorpio dynamics and even Pisces dynamics. So in Taurus here, and it's ruled by Venus, so it's creating beauty for a sense of security and a sense of safety. And that's why it rules gardening. Right, so this is some of the ways that we're trying to participate with this moment of taking this big collective intense energy that you can really get lost in if you go down these rabbit holes, and taking all of that intensity and applying it into our lives to attempt to build culture around commoning practices such as showing up and tending the earth and gardening and being outside in the springtime and preparing our environments in order to receive nourishment, food from the land, but also to generate beauty, to mirror back to us that things are safe, that things are okay, and that we can deepen into our physical embodied experience, regulate our nervous system so that we can then be more capacitated to make choice and even process the immensity of information that is coming through in this time. Not everyone has access to community or to gardens, but just getting outside, right? And creating safe spaces around you, breathing, meditating, allowing ourselves to be with the sensual experience of our bodies in this moment is incredibly medicinal.
Yes, even just being able to notice our surroundings with enough curiosity to notice an object or two that helps us feel safe and feel inspired or awestruck by the beauty, and allowing ourselves to just tune into that as something that's reflected outside of us, that speaks to a value deep inside of us, of a way of being that is beautiful, that is stable, that is observant, that is regulated. And through that process of mirroring and noticing what already is mirrored in those ways that we can, in the availability that we have, each of us in different circumstances, to begin to steward life and our surroundings and our environment.
And so one of the things that we've been talking about recently is this invitation for taking responsibility for our nervous systems, right? And what a radical act that is in these times, a revolutionary act. Because if we look out at the landscape of the current collective moment, our collective nervous system is dysregulated, right? And it's not functioning in a healthy way. It's not sense making properly because it's in this limbic reactive state of being. And so all of us are collectively contributing to the collective nervous system through the way that we are participating in that process. And so this is why the North Node is in Taurus right now. It's such a powerful invitation, is to take responsibility for our sovereign domain, to act in the places where we have sovereignty, which is in our internal landscape oftentimes, right? And primarily, right? And to act in a way that takes responsibility for that in the ways that we can, right? We can't always just change our environments entirely, but we can figure out ways how to regulate our nervous systems in whatever situation we might be in, right? And taking responsibility for that affects every domain and aspect of our lives. Like how I'm actually relating to you and all of my relationships when I'm from a place of an integrated, regulated nervous system. I'm sense making and I'm present more and I'm aware and I'm including the past, including the future in the present moment and present and attuned to what is, and then can respond with a lot more information, right? A lot more awareness, which is what we need on so many levels. This is what we need on a collective level, but it requires that we all participate in this. And one of the most powerful ways, right, is to connect to nature, to connect to each other in a way that creates and builds safety, safety and belonging, right?
Yes, and this looks so different for each one of us, and it doesn't at all mean, too, like a reification of the individualism of you have to do it all alone. This is like a way, too, of being able to assess and reflect on what each of us need to be able to do that. And oftentimes that is also through relationship, and through relationship of all sorts, with the earth, like you're saying, and with one another, and with mentors and guides and support. It's a process of relearning what it is to be able to cultivate harmony within ourselves. And for those of us who have like the privileges to have developed further regulation in our nervous system, being able to share back as well and support that process for all of us and normalize that as a human cultural value, to being able to be further at peace within our internal world, and to understand ourselves as stewards of ecology and stewards of the earth. And first and foremost, this is earth, the human being that is ourselves, is a piece, as a part, is a fractal of this living earth that we are having this opportunity to regulate and to tend and to soothe and to cultivate and to steward in a good way over time.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so coming into relationship with that is coming into relationship of what it is to be human, right? To claim responsibility of our humanness, and that is our bodies, right? And how we are in our bodies, and the choices that we're making inside of our bodies, and what we're bringing into our experience, right? And supporting each other to create environments that can help move us towards more sovereignty, more choicefulness, and more regulation of our nervous systems, right? And this is a powerful invitation in this moment, right? To be aware, to think globally, to be aware of what is happening in the world, and also to recognize that the awareness of what has happened is limited by the dysfunction of our information ecology and the current moment. And so that itself is an awareness of the grief of like not even fully being able to make sense of what is true in these times, and recognizing that and just seeing, wow, the dysregulation on the highest level of our collective organizing at this moment is severe and it is intense. And so we can take that information and be aware of that, and then, okay, I'm going to choose in this moment to just breathe with this sun for a second, right? And to see that as participating in the evolution of consciousness and the participation in life in this moment. All those moments have effects of how we're relating and how we're engaging in our lives. And
because through that, it's really this process of remembering ourselves as life again, through that slowing down and pausing and creating mindfulness in that moment and receiving the sun or lying on the earth. We're remembering ourselves as alive and living and life. And in that process, that awakens and instills a desire to participate, a desire to create conditions that are the most life-giving, life-affirming, life-enhancing over time, just even from our innate desire to honor and protect the very thing that we are a part of through this mysterious occurrence of our conscious awareness and self-reflective consciousness that can be having this conversation in and of itself, standing at this existential moment of change and being able to imagine and explore and discuss and dialogue about the possible ways that we can support ourselves and honor each other and move forward collectively towards a life-enhancing and life-sustaining world.
Exactly. And so that's where we're at in this moment, right? To build that new world requires that we are coming from a place of attunement, of regulation, and capacity to be in relationship with the internal world and what our needs are, you know, and in communal environments that can support that deepening of that knowing and that self-knowing and choicefulness. And then from there, we can dream so many possibilities into being, and we can act in the world in good ways, awake to the feedback of our actions, and then participate in iterative cycles of action, reception, action, reception, in a way that serves the evolution of the whole. And that's that 3-pillar process that we speak so much of at Seeds. The evolution of the self, right? To coming into more and more self-attunement and recognition of who we are, to unravel and unfurl our unique gifts as in service to the whole, to be in relationship with the cultural, right? To facilitate cultural evolution, to support the individual development, but also our relationship with the more than human, right? To serve the more than human, to reanimate the more than human, to give life back to life. And those 3 processes supporting our evolutionary process over time. And so if we can be awake to the impacts on those 3 scales at all times with all actions, then we can be guided, truly guided into right relationship over time. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we'll have more videos to share soon about our process here at the Turtle Lake Community Farm and what's moving in our lives, and hope to connect with you too. If you'd like to reach out, please do at any time.
Many blessings. Be well.